Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and today we're going to be talking about you, the horror fans, because it is Spooktober.
I love it when he does that. He does that mostly just for me now.
Yeah,
Spooktober is a great month, Paul, and it's the month when we talk about horror. You, and every year I call this out, I'm a horror fan. I enjoy horror movies. Paul is more of a horror fanatic and expert. And you're not a fanatic, but you're the horror expert of the two of us. So I got my knowledge, and where I run out, I usually turn to Paul. So we cover each other's gray areas and our areas of shortcoming. But man, oh man, I gotta say, Paul, horror fans are rapidly becoming my favorite fandom in all of cinema.
yeah, no, definitely agree. Yeah, so this video is entirely about you, horror fans, and your your continuation of supporting the genre, which is just absolutely amazing. We do so. The reason we're doing this one is simply because if you were to break down essentially audience kind of like sub genre groups and stuff, horror fans seem to be the most consistent going to the cinema across the board. Now, like horror isn't overly doing like the best in the kind of in the movie kind of business, but they are doing consistently well.
Yeah. Horror, look, a lot of people say, oh, you make horror movies. First-time directors quite often get to make a horror movie because, oh, they're cheaper, they're simpler, blah, 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 blah. So, all of these things are true in various measures. But when you look at the business and the industry, as we've done a few times over the years now, Paul, with the ebbs and flows and the peaks and troughs of, comic book movies, young adult fiction, whatever it might be that is on or off trend. Is Marvel doing well this year? Or is Marvel tanking this year? A lot of people are pinning their yearly box office hopes on that. But in the background, there's always been horror, a genre that gets to keep ticking along, and everybody's like, oh, but horror's taken off. No, horror gradually gained. I'm not saying that it's plateaued, but it's more like if you were making investments, Paul, it's what people want to see because it's just a nice, steady upward inclination. Yes, the industry has noticed and is making more movies,
Mm,
and more thrillers are becoming horror thrillers or
yeah,
have more of a horror edge to them here and there. So the mainstream is catching on. But it really is down to the important thing, and that is horror fans and people who like movies. Quite an awful lot of people who like movies are also horror fans. Their Venn
the Venn
diagram crosses
diagram. Yeah,
over, and they're great at getting off the couch. They're great at getting out the door, and they're great at going to the cinema for a movie that they maybe know is not going to be 5 stars, but they want to go and experience it with people and be like, yeah, that was a turned out to be a 4.5 star movie. I really glad I went.
yeah. That's the interesting thing about the fandom is the fact is that the experience is just as important as the content itself, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
which is a really nice kind of difference in viewership in the sense that they are going also for kind of the experience to be within the cinema, big scares, big loud noises with
Yeah.
the good sound systems and everything, but also the kind of the group being there as well, the group experience elements there as well. And you're right with the gathering. Like I definitely agree that the gathering of essentially the up kind of uptick of essentially horror movies is a safe bet within the business of movies. You
Mm.
are deemed to make either your money back or a little bit more, which is really nice for a movie. And as you say, you also get to try out new directors and stuff, and that's all because of fandom. It's all because of the
Hmm.
fans going and doing everything, and buying the DVDs, buying merchants, the merchandise, buy going and getting tickets and everything. And it's a really good indication of kind of how well they enjoy specifically their genre, so much so
Yeah.
that they kind of it doesn't matter kind of what the movie is as long as it is horror based kind of thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. And that's the thing. People, when we talk about, particular fandoms, there are people who are only into one type of thing and will only go and see that. You talk to horror movie fans, they're still going. Some of them are going to see Marvel movies. Some of them are still going to see Downton Abbey. Some of them are, like they tend to be film fans first, but then have, you know, uh, a particular interest, let's say, in horror. It's kind of like, here's a really good analogy that I may regret bringing up, so nobody shout at me in the comments. But you know that whole thing of if you want to go out and you want to go to a gig for a type of music you've never been to before, go to heavy metal. Because metalers, as rough as they might look to the average person, are always the nicest, friendliest, most welcoming folks. Yes, they're really into their thing, but really they're just music fans. Usually, you talk to a
Yeah.
heavy metal person, they'll be like, I love Slayer, but I also love Stevie Wonder. And you're like, yeah, there you go. They're music fans first and foremost. Very non-exclusionary. And I think the same thing can be said with horror fans. They support cinema. They particularly support their own favorite genre, which is what's kept it nicely buoyed along the way and kept it floating and kept cinema in years when there haven't been any sure things, let's say, or any safe grounds, kept cinema with somewhere to anchor themselves and go, well, these are people who will see a $25 million budget movie or a $12 million budget
Yeah.
movie or a $6 million budget movie and allow us to actually still be creative, still be new, fresh, take chances, but not have a massive financial penalty. Not like some of the I'm only going to go and see it if it's a blockbuster
Yeah.
type fandoms.
Yeah, no, that's one of the big things is they are more willing to go to things that they may not fully like are not fully kind of on board for it, or like kind of fully knowledgeable about, like, is this going to be good or is this going to be bad, kind of thing. They
Mm,
like to take the risk as long as it's within horror. Like, as long as it's a horror movie,
yeah,
they kind of go, I'll take the risk. The other thing is that the experience kind of element to it, they're the only genre, like it's the only genre as well that also transfers back to the home as well, because you have another, like, not only do you have the cinema experience, you also have the home experience kind of thing, where you get a bunch
that's
of people
right.
together and you dim the lights and stuff. And then within that is also the fact is that horror also has an inbuilt month, like, kind of thing, where
Yeah,
we have an uptail of essentially movies that are coming
that's
out,
true.
and also rewatchability. This is the month.
Yeah,
Spooktober is the month in which people rewatch horror movies, classics, and also the newer ones as well. So it's
yeah.
but it's made possible.
I'm one of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's made possible because of the fandom, the dedication of these people who, as you say, are movie fans first, and particularly our favoritism towards the horror genre. And the really good thing about this, as you say, is with them being risk averse, or, like, kind of thing, or taking punts on lower budget stuff, it means that essentially they will go to everything. They will, like, and I'm not saying that you're like, you don't have a good taste in movies. It's the fact is that
Yeah, it's
you
not that they're not discerning, and you're right. It's their lack of risk aversion that they'll. And again, it's not as a block. Everybody leaves their house and watches everything, but there's enough people that will go and try out various things. I think that's a great point.
But, like, I'll be honest with you, you originally made this point of the fact that they,
Okay.
with the
Well, then
budget,
it's definitely a great point.
yeah, yeah, with the that they take punts on the smaller budget stuff, and which is just a fantastic kind of element of this fandom. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, we've had some absolute killers this year, kind of things, of coming out, like weapons and stuff like that. But the fact is that
Yeah.
we've had other ones that are lesser known and they've still done as well. Like the Sinners, for example. Like, Sinners is one of the
Yeah.
most black sheep of like, because it came out of left field entirely, that no one,
Mm.
like, the thing was with which is the cast in it, it had a pull to it, but no one really knew
Mm.
what it was going to be about overly. And but, like,
True.
the first wave of people that went to it were horror fans. They knew it was in the genre of horror, so they went to it. And then word of mouth spread that this is like this is the best movie of this year. And
Mm.
that's really what spread that movie even further, kind of thing. And it's because of essentially the initial wave.
I agree. And what do you think when, like, because I love it. Again, horror is not my main. I love all movies. Everybody loves all movies. Blah blah blah. But everybody still does have some favorite genres. You and in your kind of, let's say, favorites category, horror is definitely in there for you. I
Yeah.
think, and that's great. For me, it's right next door to being in there. So it's still up there, but not necessarily right down the middle. But like the big movies over the years, it's not like horror doesn't have the odd big blockbuster. But when they do, I'm so happy. Like it. Remember it a few years ago?
Yeah.
Like Pennywise came back. We had a moment. Okay, more it, chapter one than two, but everybody, even outside of horror, was like, "Oh, I'll give this a go." And for me, it wasn't like, yay, because it's the best movie ever. It was just really nice for actual horror fans to be able to have their moment where they're having their Marvel moment. And part of that reason is because I don't see horror fans pulling each other down the way I see a lot of other fandoms that enjoy infighting and telling somebody else how wrong they are. Whereas horror fans are like, oh, you really like that, then you're gonna love this. If you like that, then do you like long legs, or do you like, which is more your thing? Blah, 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 is it more creature? Is it more stab? Is it more whatever? Blah, blah, blah. Whereas, like, never mind Marvel versus DC, just God, Marvel versus Marvel.
Yeah.
It's really nice how, again, it's like everybody looks at, metalers and people are into, heavy music, and they think, oh God, they're big and scary. And then they talk to them and like, that's the nicest person I've ever met. It's the same. Horror fans, when you interact with them in an online space, which is almost always toxic, because let's
Yeah.
face it, online, there's usually a hint of poison somewhere. Super cool, super groovy, super open, super into the art of making cinema and eliciting emotions. And they've picked a genre that's going straight to elicit emotions every time. And we all know one of those emotions is either tension or fear. Um, I just, yeah, we've done a few episodes over the years talking about things like this. I'm glad that we're just calling it out loud. It's about time, and I'm so happy that we're in the heyday of horror as far as respect for the genre goes.
Yeah, I do think that like it is a really nice element to the fandom in the sense that there's a passion there for the movies and the genre itself that kind of transcends the essential kind of competition that seems to be there, or the I need to
Mm.
be right element of essentially online interactions. As in, we had we had a like link in above. We had a question last week which was about the most iconic horror villain, and in the like in the comments so far, like from this recording, we've had people going like, I really like Freddy, and no one's gone, we're that's a stupid answer
That's
kind of
the
thing.
worst answer ever.
It's immediately just like, that's a great answer, I really like Freddy,
Yeah,
like, kind of thing. Like it's
yeah,
a very much collaborative kind of genre where we're kind of going, I can see why you like him, I kind of like this person,
yeah.
there's no kind of like, you're an absolute, there's no trolls, or it feels like there's no trolls specifically in a lot of the conversations or subreddits
And
talking
no
about this
one's
kind
ever
of stuff.
mean to me when I say, look, horror's not my big thing, because they hear what I've just said. They hear me going, horror's not my big thing. I enjoy horror as a genre. I enjoy a lot of horror movies. Some of the best movies I've ever seen have been horror movies. Probably the best cinema experience I ever had would count as a horror movie, which is Quiet Place.
Yeah.
But when I say that, horror fans will go, "Oh yeah, fair enough." But so which ones do you like? Whereas if you hear, like, even people who say to me, "Oh yeah, I can't stand comic book movies," I hear them say, "I can't stand." Whereas even if I said I can't stand horror, I think a horror person would be like, "Okay, but maybe you just don't realize that you're probably already watching some."
I With that said, I think, because automatically in my head I went, maybe not right watching the right horror for you.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. But
immediately
that's
was
why
just,
those questions about, have you ever watched The Poseidon Adventure? Because it's not a horror film, but there's tension there where you go, if you enjoy that sort of, somebody trying to survive and escape, I'll bring you towards that end of horror.
hmm.
Um, so it can be kind of fun. Um, yeah, like I'm gonna stop being so effusively nice. I would like to say I'm really proud of Hollywood as far as the business side of it goes. No, people are like, oh, they're just making too many now. I don't know. I think they're giving a lot of chances to a lot of, I'm not gonna say younger directors because it's not to do with age, but less experienced creatives when it comes to, behind the camera, even in front of the camera. They're getting payback. We wouldn't know Egger's name right now. We wouldn't know a lot of people's name right now. Everybody credits A24, but it really is, there's a culture now of letting people do weirder, darker movies. And I think that's bringing through the next generation of amazing talent when it comes to writing and directing.
Well, this is my favorite point of this, and I'm really glad that you brought that kind of thing up, where the business is taking kind of more risks in its creatives and also in the projects itself. The only reason they
Mm.
can do that is because they have a fandom which is willing to go along with them. And this is
This is it.
why I also have such a bad problem with essentially general cinema goers in like, thing. It's the fact is that we are constantly complaining, and I put myself in this. We are constantly complaining about prequels, sequels, and remakes. But the reason that studios have gone that direction is because that the numbers don't lie about originals. There's originals there that are franchise kind of that have become either have an element of a director or a creative that we know really well, so we trust them
Yeah.
with a new IP. Avatar, James Cameron is well known. Avatar would not have made, like, if we didn't know anyone involved in the project, like, I don't think Avatar would be as well received as it
No.
was.
Oh,
The
definitely not. I
you-
think you're safe to say that.
so like the thing is that with horror, studios can make more of a risk on or take more risks on projects and creatives because they have a risk averse fandom who will go still, like, because they'll try out things. They're just like, okay, so there's a new director, I don't know who this is. I've heard that some of their short movies and stuff are really good. Let's give them a punt on a longer form.
Mm.
I think this is really cool. Or I've heard of this story before. It's a comic book or something like that. I don't really know anything about it,
Yeah.
but this sounds really cool. I'm going to go for it anyway. Kind of thing. Like, having a fandom that is willing to take the risk with you means that you can
Yeah.
do way more with it. And I think that general cinema goers, as you say, need to start taking more risks with more films so that this industry can then take more risks with new
Yeah.
projects and stuff. That's the final thing I'll say. Any
Yeah.
last thoughts there, Patrick?
No, well, I guess, Paul, you're representing the horror fandom on this, and I'm representing the rest, let's say, just in broad strokes. And I'm here on behalf of like just movie lovers to say thanks. Keep up the good work. And me and everybody that's like me is trying to take inspiration and be reminded by this great groundswell of constant support that horror fans give, that we should all be a little bit more like that. It's great when you hear a horror fan say, "I really love this new film by this director I'd never heard of, Robert Eggers," and the first thing they'll say is, "I'm going to go back and watch their previous movies." You can have Captain America Winter Soldier happen, and people are like, I don't care what the Russo brothers did before.
Yeah.
They don't look back. So it's that inspiration that I think is starting to bleed out slowly. And I think it's great. So yeah, this is just a bit of a love letter to horror fandom,
Yeah.
not the genre, the people. So that's why, Paul, I think you started this one perfectly. Thanks to everybody out there for supporting movies. Whether you hate horror movies or not, if you're an actual cinema fan, you're probably going to find that horror fans are maybe your people too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for consistently going to the cinema, consistently, like, joining us for Spooktober. And yeah, joining us here on Hero Site. Let us know down in the comments what your thoughts of the fandoms are. We would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Even in the wider topic of just studios taking more risks depending on their fandom. That's a good question. But yeah, otherwise, I've been Paul.
I've been Patrick.
And we've been Hero Site.
Spooktober. I just wanted to say it once.
Spooktober. See you later, guys.
Bye.